This quantum shift in your mind can change your entire reality. And to understand the depth of what that means, we must begin at the foundation of how human consciousness interacts with the quantum field that permeates everything in existence. For it is not simply a metaphor when scientists and philosophers speak of the mind as a field of energy, but rather a profound recognition that what you think, what you feel, and what you focus upon has the capacity to rearrange the very building blocks of reality itself. And this is where the story begins, not in some faraway laboratory, but inside your own awareness, because awareness itself is the ground from which the seeds of reality sprout. Imagine for a moment that every thought is like a wave, rippling through an invisible ocean that surrounds and interpenetrates all things. And these waves are not idle, they are signals, frequencies that resonate with the hidden architecture of the universe. And when you understand that your mind is not merely a private chamber where thoughts appear and disappear, but a transmitter and receiver of quantum information, you begin to realize the power that lies dormant within you. For centuries, mystics and sages spoke of the mind's power to create, to manifest, to attract, and for centuries science dismissed such claims as superstition. But now quantum psychology, bridging the gap between physics and the human psyche, reveals that these ancient intuitions were in fact rooted in truths that science is only beginning to measure and describe. You see, at the quantum level, particles are not fixed entities but possibilities, probabilities suspended in a field of potential until they are observed, and the act of observation is not passive, it is creative. It collapses a wave of probability into a particle of reality. And this is not just a trick of subatomic experiments, but a fundamental truth about consciousness and reality. For you are the observer, and your observation does not merely witness reality, it chooses reality. Every choice, every focus, every intention collapses a set of possibilities into one lived experience. And the shocking implication is that your life as you know it is not a fixed script you must follow, but a dynamic play that responds to the direction of your awareness. This quantum shift is a recognition that reality is malleable, plastic, alive, and that the limits you think exist are largely projections of past conditioning, not laws of the universe. When you realize that, you stop being a passive victim of circumstance and become the conscious author of your experience. And it is at this moment, this awakening, that your life begins to transform at the deepest level. To experience the shift, however, you must first understand how your mind has been programmed to operate in a classical, mechanical way. Since birth, you were taught that the world is solid, predictable, and separate from you, that events happen outside you, and you simply respond, that cause and effect move in linear chains beyond your control. But this worldview is incomplete, for it ignores the role of consciousness in shaping those chains. You were told that reality is external and that your thoughts are private, but quantum psychology says otherwise. It says your thoughts are waves that enter the collective field. Your emotions are signals that tune you into certain frequencies, and your beliefs are filters that allow certain realities to crystallize while excluding others. So long as you operate with unconscious beliefs rooted in fear, lack, limitation, and separation, your mind will collapse realities that reflect those patterns, and life will seem like an endless repetition of the same struggles. Because at the quantum level, the field gives back to you what you resonate with, not what you superficially wish for. This is why people who desperately want change often experience more of the same, because their dominant vibration is still anchored in fear and lack, and the universe mirrors that state. But when you learn to shift your mind into coherence, when your thoughts, emotions, and beliefs align with a higher possibility, the quantum field responds instantly, and life reorganizes itself to match your new frequency. This is not fantasy. Experiments in quantum physics have repeatedly shown that intention, observation, and expectation alter outcomes, and when groups of people hold coherent intentions, even larger systems shift. The quantum shift in your mind begins when you stop seeing thoughts as private chatter and begin seeing them as quantum signals, powerful influences that shape not only your personal life, but also the collective reality we all share. Now, let us go deeper, because this shift is not simply about positive thinking or repeating affirmations, though those can be useful tools. It is about altering the very foundation of how you identify yourself. Most people identify with their ego, their personality, their story, their past experiences, and because of this identification, they unconsciously project those same patterns into the quantum field again and again, reinforcing the same results. But if you step back, if you become aware that you are not the story but the awareness behind the story, something extraordinary happens. You begin to access the quantum field not as a limited individual, but as pure consciousness. And from this perspective, you are infinite potential itself. In this state, miracles happen, synchronicities align, and what once seemed impossible begins to unfold effortlessly, not because the laws of physics have been broken, but because you have learned to operate at a higher order of those laws, the level where consciousness and energy weave reality together. The quantum shift is the recognition that your identity is not your past, not your name, not your limitations, but pure awareness, timeless and boundless. And once you embody this truth, you find that external circumstances bend to the power of your inner coherence. Consider how often you replay the past in your mind, how often you think of what went wrong, who hurt you, what you lost, and realize that every time you replay it, you are sending signals into the field that reinforce that version of reality. The brain does not distinguish between a vividly imagined memory and a current experience. The body responds with the same emotions, the same stress hormones, the same contractions, and thus the past repeats itself. But quantum psychology teaches that when you shift your focus from replaying the past to envisioning a coherent future, the brain begins to rewire, the body begins to recondition, and the field begins to reflect that new coherence back to you. This is the essence of neuroplasticity aligned with quantum potential. Your mind can literally resculpt the circuits of your brain and the events of your life by what you choose to focus upon. The quantum shift is therefore both internal and external, both psychological and physical, because the line between mind and matter dissolves once you understand their unity at the quantum level. The moment you deeply feel gratitude for a future reality before it arrives, the field responds as though it already exists, because in the quantum realm, time is not linear, it is simultaneous, and possibilities exist all at once until you collapse them into your experience. Skeptics may ask, how can mere thought change matter? How can imagination influence reality? The answer lies in the experiments of quantum mechanics, where particles behave differently when observed, in the strange phenomenon of entanglement, where two particles separated by vast distances still respond instantly to each other, and in the fact that reality at its core is not made of solid matter, but of vibrating energy and probabilities. If particles respond to observation, if energy entangles across space, and if reality is probabilities awaiting collapse, then consciousness is not a passive bystander, but the very force that animates existence. Your thoughts are not private clouds. They are quantum events, and every quantum event ripples across the field of potential. This is why the quantum shift in your mind can change your entire reality, because reality itself is built to respond to consciousness, and you are consciousness embodied. But to embody this shift fully, you must practice, for the old conditioning of the mechanical worldview is strong, and the ego clings to the illusion of separation. Every day you are bombarded by stimuli that try to pull your attention outward, to distract you with fear, scarcity, competition, and division. But the quantum shift requires that you reclaim your attention and focus it deliberately on what you choose to create. Meditation becomes essential here, not as an escape from the world, but as a tuning of your frequency, a way of entering coherence, so that your signal to the field is clear and powerful. Visualization, too, becomes a tool, not as idle fantasy, but as intentional observation of preferred possibility, collapsing it into reality. Gratitude becomes a vibration that anchors you into a frequency of abundance, aligning your field with more of what you desire. These are not superstitions. They are practical applications of quantum psychology, ways to train your mind to resonate with the field in harmony rather than discord. And as you practice, you'll begin to notice subtle shifts, coincidences, opportunities, people showing up at the right time, challenges dissolving more easily. These are signs that the field is responding, that reality is bending to the new coherence of your consciousness. The first stage of the quantum shift is awakening to the fact that your mind is not limited to your brain, but is part of a universal field of consciousness. The second stage is reclaiming your attention and focusing it deliberately rather than unconsciously. The third stage is embodying coherence, aligning thoughts, emotions, and beliefs with the reality you wish to experience. And the final stage is surrender. For once you set the intention and align your vibration, you must trust the field to orchestrate the details. The ego always wants control, to know how and when. But the quantum field is infinitely more intelligent than the ego, and when you trust, miracles unfold in ways the mind could never plan. This surrender is not passive. It is the ultimate act of co-creation. For you recognize that you are one with the infinite intelligence of the universe, and you allow it to move through you without resistance. This is the quantum shift in action, a dance of intention, coherence, and surrender, creating realities that reflect the highest potential of your being. When the quantum shift begins to take root in your awareness, you start to notice how everything you once considered random or accidental begins to reveal a deeper order, an interconnected design that has been present all along, but hidden beneath the noise of unconscious perception. And this realization changes the very fabric of how you interpret life, because suddenly coincidences are no longer dismissed as chance, but recognized as synchronicities, signs that your consciousness is aligning with the field in precise ways that reflect your inner state. At this stage, you begin to see that reality is like a mirror, faithfully reflecting not only your conscious desires, but also your unconscious fears, doubts, and expectations. And you realize that if you want to change what the mirror shows, you must change what you're projecting into it, not by force, but by shifting your vibration at the root level of belief and identity. This is why the quantum shift is not just a mental trick, but a profound transformation of self. Because to create a new reality, you must become a new version of yourself, one that thinks differently, feels differently, and resonates differently with the field. The old identity, built on fear, scarcity, and survival, collapses under the weight of this new consciousness, and a new self begins to emerge, one aligned with abundance, love, creativity, and limitless possibility. And as this new self emerges, life responds, for reality has no choice but to reflect the coherence of your inner state. To embody this level of transformation, you must understand the mechanics of belief, because beliefs are not just ideas you hold in your head. They are programs that instruct the quantum field what kind of reality to produce for you, and these programs often run unconsciously, shaped by childhood experiences, cultural conditioning, and repetitive patterns reinforced over time. A person who believes the world is hostile will unconsciously collapse realities that prove that belief true. A person who believes they are unworthy will find evidence everywhere of rejection and limitation. And a person who believes they are abundant, loved, and capable will see opportunities and support appear in ways that others cannot. The quantum shift, then, requires you become aware of your unconscious beliefs and deliberately reprogram them with new, empowering patterns that align with the reality you wish to create. This reprogramming is not superficial. It demands emotional alignment, because a quantum field responds to coherence, not to empty words. So you must feel the truth of your new belief as though it were already real, and in that emotional resonance, the field begins to rearrange to match it. This is why gratitude, joy, and love are such powerful states, because they generate coherent vibrations that signal abundance, connection, and harmony to the field, drawing experiences that reflect those frequencies. But let us go deeper still, for the quantum shift is not just about personal empowerment. It is about recognizing your role in the collective evolution of consciousness. Every thought you have, every emotion you broadcast, contributes to the larger field we all share, and as more individuals awaken to their creative power, the collective reality shifts as well. This is why movements of transformation, healing, and global awakening are accelerating, because the quantum shift is not happening in isolation. It is happening at scale, as humanity learns to see itself not as separate fragments, but as one unified consciousness expressing itself through billions of forms. Your personal shift is therefore not selfish. It is an act of service, because every time you elevate your vibration, you lift the field for everyone else, and every time you choose love over fear, you contribute to coherence of the whole. This understanding brings a new level of responsibility, but also a new level of empowerment, because it means your choices matter far beyond your individual life. They ripple through the fabric of reality itself. At this stage of the journey, resistance often arises because the ego clings to the familiar, even if the familiar is painful, and the unconscious mind resists change, preferring the safety of predictable suffering over the uncertainty of transformation. You may find yourself sabotaging new opportunities, doubting your progress, or slipping back into old patterns. But this too is part of the quantum process. For every shift requires a collapse of the old before the new can fully stabilize. When resistance appears, the key is not to fight it, but to observe it, to bring awareness to the unconscious programs as they arise, and in that observation to collapse them. Awareness itself is the light that dissolves the shadows of the unconscious. And each time you catch a limiting belief, a fear, or a pattern, you weaken it, hold, and strengthen your alignment with the new reality you are creating. This is the inner work of the quantum shift, The ongoing practice of choosing awareness over autopilot, coherence over chaos, and trust over fear. One of the most profound realizations that comes with this shift is that time itself is not what you thought it was. In the classical worldview, time is linear, moving inexorably from past to present to future. But in the quantum worldview, time is a dimension of possibility, and past, present, and future exist simultaneously as potentials in the field. What you experience as memory is not a fixed record, but a choice of focus. And what you experience as a future is not predetermined, but a range of possibilities awaiting collapse. This means that when you shift your vibration in the present, you are not only influencing the future, but also rewriting the meaning of the past. Because memory itself can change as your state of consciousness changes. This is why healing is possible, why trauma can dissolve, why forgiveness can transform. Because the past is not fixed, it is fluid, and the quantum field responds to your current state of awareness. When you realize this, you are freed from the tyranny of time, and you step into a new dimension of power, where the present moment is the gateway to infinite possibility. In this eternal now, you are no longer bound by what has been, you are free to create what can be, and the field responds instantly to coherence of your intention. As you embody this timeless awareness, you begin to notice that reality itself becomes more fluid, more responsive, more magical, as if the universe is conspiring with you rather than against you. Opportunities arise in unexpected ways. Doors open where before there were walls, and life begins to flow with a sense of ease and alignment. This is not because challenges disappear, but because your relationship to them changes. You no longer see obstacles as threats, but as opportunities for growth, as invitations to expand your consciousness further. Each challenge becomes a portal, a chance to dissolve another layer of limitation, and step more fully into your quantum power. And with each breakthrough, your trust in the process deepens. You realize that life is not happening to you, but through you, that you are not a victim but a co-creator, and that the universe itself is alive with intelligence, responding to your vibration with perfect precision. This understanding changes how you live day to day, because you no longer chase outcomes with desperation. You no longer measure your worth by external results. You no longer cling to control, but instead you focus on cultivating coherence in the present moment, knowing that the external will align when the internal is aligned. You wake up each day asking not, what will happen to me, but what vibration will I embody today? And in that choice, you align yourself with realities that reflect your highest potential. This shift also changes how you relate to others, because you begin to see that everyone is a mirror, reflecting aspect of yourself, and every interaction is an opportunity to choose love, compassion, and coherence. Even those who challenge you most become teachers, showing you the edges of your own unconscious patterns, and by meeting them with awareness, you dissolve those patterns and expand your capacity to embody love. Relationships become laboratories of transformation, sacred spaces where the quantum shift plays out in real time, and through them you deepen your mastery of consciousness. Eventually, you reach a point where the line between inner and outer reality dissolves entirely, and you realize that the entire universe is inside you, that there is no separation between the observer and the observed, that consciousness and reality are one. This realization is the pinnacle of the quantum shift, the moment when you recognize yourself as both the dreamer and the dream, the creator and the creation, the field and the form. At this level, you live in constant awareness of unity, and your life becomes a flow of synchronicity, creativity, and love. Fear loses its grip because you know you are infinite. Scarcity loses its grip because you know abundance is your natural state. Separation loses its grip because you know you are one with all. This is enlightenment in the language of quantum psychology, the full embodiment of the truth that your consciousness is reality itself, and that by shifting your mind, you shift the universe. And yet, even here, the journey does not end, because the field is infinite, and there are always new dimensions of possibility to explore, new layers of consciousness to embody, new realities to create. The quantum shift is not a destination, but perpetual unfolding, a dance of awareness and creation that has no end, only deeper expressions of the infinite. Each moment is an opportunity to expand, to embody more love, more coherence, more creativity, and in doing so, to contribute to the evolution of the collective field. This is the highest purpose of the quantum shift, not just to transform your personal life, but to participate in the transformation of humanity, to be a beacon of coherence in a world still awakening, to radiate a vibration that uplifts all who come into contact with it. When you live this way, your very presence becomes a transmission, a silent invitation for others to awaken to their own power. And in this way, the shift spreads one mind at a time until collective reality itself reflects a unity, love, and abundance that is the truth of existence. This is a promise and the power of the quantum shift in your mind, that by changing your awareness, you change your life. By changing your life, you change the field. And by changing the field, you change the world. It is not a theory, but a lived reality, not a distant dream, but a present possibility, waiting for you to embody it fully. The choice is yours, and the field awaits, infinite, responsive, alive, ready to reflect whatever vibration you offer. Choose coherence. Choose love. Choose awareness, and watch as your entire reality transforms before your eyes.